Good morning, children. Welcome back to our geography class of lesson 9, weathering and denudation. Children, we will continue on page number 82. Open your books, children. Work of winds. The seventh part of the lesson, work of wind. The action of wind involving erosions, transportation, and deposition is most prominent in arid and semi-arid region. Children, wind is doing the erosion, transportation, and deposition. The three important thing about wind, children, please understand it, is erosion, transportation, and deposition. The most prominent and arid and semi-arid region, because there are no trees or hills to check the speed of the blowing wind. Also, dry soil is loosened and is easily carried away by the wind. Erosion involving wind, erosion, and transportation is mostly of three types: deflation, abrasion, and deposition. Deflation, the picking and blowing away of loose particle of sand and dust by wind is called deflation. Latin word to meaning of deflation is to blow away. Deflation means the things, the rock small particles which are blown away by the wind. Deflation may result in the removal of the fine materials from their place of origin and depositing of that outside the desert margin, leaving a surface of boulders and gravels known as reg. Children, what is reg? It is the particles which is carried away by the wind, by the force from its original place to another place, is called reg. The boulders, big boulders, are granules, small granules. It is broken down into small pieces. That is known as reg. Deflation is common in dry desert of the world. So this part of wind in deflation, it takes place only in the desert region. Deflation is taking place in the desert region. It is also active on plowed fields, alluvial plains, and similar places where vegetation is sparse and lacking. So children, where else deflation taking place? Not only in desert, children, it is also taking place in the vegetative places where the farmland is, and where plowing of fields is taking places, and where the alluvial soil is, fertile soil is found. Abrasion, Latin scrap off. The particles transported by wind strike the rock and bounders in their path, groaning, scaring, polishing, and grinding them. This activity of wind is called abrasion. So children, abrasion is the grinding, groaning, and scaring and polishing of the rock is the activity which take place on the rock by the wind is called abrasion. Abrasion is the most effective at or near the rocks. It is near the rock, children. The wind is taking the performing this activity near the rock, where the amount of material the wind carries it greatest. This lead to the undercutting of rocks. Even very hard rocks are polished and gradually worn out in the way. This action results in desert mushrooms and rock pedestrians. So children, it is not only cutting the rock on the upper part, but also under the surface of the rock, it is grinding and polishing the rocks and making it in a worn out situation. Transportation. While the wind carries coarse particle of rock over the surface for short distance, the fine sand particles are carried to great distance. So again, abrasion is also having transportation. Again, these rocks particles are carried away from their origin to the other part of the area. From the surface to shorter distance in fine sand, it turns into sand particles, children, and it is carried to great distance. Sand is carried away by the wind very easily. Sandstorm in the desert best reveal the power of strong wind in transporting rock materials. Dust blown by Cepheus winds from Sahara has reached parts of Central Europe across Mediterranean to fall as blood rain in Italy or in the glaciers of Switzerland. Children, just imagine the dust storm of the desert of the Sahara. Sahara is in Africa, children, and the dust storm is taking place and taking this the wind which is blowing is called Syracuse wind, which takes these dust particles into the Central Europe. It is taking from one continent to the other continent and near the Mediterranean Sea, and it is having a rainfall which is called the blood rainfall in Italy. Italy is another place away from Sahara and near the glaciers of Switzerland. The deposition. The finest dust transported by wind may travel enormous distance in the air and eventually deposit on the land or sea. Now, where this deposition take place? Near the land and near the sea. As wind-borne materials are shifted according to their coarseness, it is deposited in dunes. Children, when they are falling near the land or the sea, they are making it like dunes. They are called dunes. Landforms associated with wind erosion. The feature formed by wind erosions are mushroom rock or rock pedestals, deflation, hollows, mushroom rocks or rock pedestal. Children, you can see the mushroom rock in the figure 9.22. The area to dry region when the winds strike against the surface or projecting rocks, eroded layers are leading to isolated boulders of hard rocks standing above the level of the surrounding. The base of the rock is eroded in this manner, resemble a mushroom. Hence they are called desert mushroom or rock pedestals. Pedestal means like a form of a pillar, and on top of this there is another rock. This means the wind was rubbing against the rock and taking away and polishing and grinding away from the surface and both the side of the rock and giving it a pedestal, and on top of the rock there is another rock in a shape of a mushroom. This shows that this is a rock which is called the pedestal or mushroom rock. The undercutting by wind, can you see? Rock strata. Deflation hollows. The wind lower the ground by blowing away the unconsolidated material, giving rise to large depression called deflation hollows. These are found in non-mountainous region. Deflation hollows are an example of wind erosion causing deflation, yet this depression also tends to collect rainwater and hold this water for some time depending on evaporation rate. For example, the Fenium depression in Egypt lies 130 feet below the sea level. Large areas in western US stripped of their natural vegetation were completely deflated when strong wind moved materials as dust storm and create the great dust bowl. Landforms of wind deposition in desert sand dunes. Dunes are in fact hills of sand formed by the accumulation of sand and shaped by the movement of wind. Where the direction of the wind is constant and gentle slope is developed on the windward side and a steep slope on the leeward side. The leeward side is steeper because of the sand rolls down in slope. The common dunes are of two types, Barkhan or Bachars. These dunes are crescent shaped with horns of crescent trails down. They are caused by the accumulation of sand at an obstacle such as patches or grasses or a heap of rock. The windward side of Barkhan is convex and gentle sloping, while the leeward side is convex and steep. The crescent of the sand dunes move forward and more sand is accumulated by the prevailing wind. The migration of the branches may be threat to desert life, for they may encroach on an oasis bearing the house and trees. Long rooted trees and grasses are planted to halt at the advance of dunes to prevent the areas of fertile land. Birchans are most prevalent in the desert of Turkestan and Sahara. Cepheus and longitudinal dunes. Cepheus in Arabic means sword. These are long, narrow ridges of sand lying parallel to the direction of prevailing winds. They may extend to over 100 miles. These longitudinal dunes may attain a height of over 200 feet. The crescent line of the Cepheus rises and falls in alternate peaks and saddles in regular successions. The prevailing dominant winds blow the corridors between the lines of dunes so that they are swept clean of sand and remain smooth. Extensive Cepheus dunes are found in the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert, the winds, Australian's desert. Children, you can see in the figures 9.28 and figure 9.26. So children, you finish this session. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll meet in the next session.